Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Tanoa, and I'm NAF's Social Media Coordinator. I want to welcome you to AAC 2023 virtual session, Inclusive and Accessible Social Media, Tools and Technology to Empower You. Before we get started, I wanted to mention a few housekeeping notes. Here are our standard disclaimers. Also, remember, you can ask questions at any time in the chat. We'll have our speakers available after the presentation to answer your questions. Also, if you miss one of the talks from the conference, don't worry. We'll have all the sessions available for on-demand viewing after the conference. With that out of the way, I'd like to introduce our speaker, speech pathologist Jourdan Saunders, CEO of the Resource Key. Hi, Jourdan.
Hi, thanks so much, everyone, for joining. I am going to review some of the disclosures before I get started. I received an honorarium for speaking at the National Ataxia Foundation Conference. There are approximately more than 8 billion people that use social media, and you may be one of them. And out of those 8 billion people in the world, let me correct that, but out of those 8 billion people in the world, 4.9 billion people use social media. So that is a large amount of people across the globe that use social media. I use social media for a variety of different ways. It's changed over the years. From when I first got out of grad school, I had a student blog, and I utilized that student blog to share information that I learned along my journey with other future speech-language pathologists. I've also used it to find job opportunities via LinkedIn, Instagram, other social media outlets. So many companies these days post on social media, so it is a way that jobs are using to be able to share information so that people have other means to find professional opportunities. So here, storytelling through social media, I have a list of different ways people use social media. So whether you may use it for personal, to stay connected with your friends, family. I know my mom, I would call her an observer of social media. And I use that term, I've kind of used that term in the sense of some people don't want to actively engage in social media, but they want to keep up with what's going on. So my mom has an account that she just uses to keep up with me and my siblings and other family members. I would say I'm an active engager in social media. I use it for personal, to stay connected, entertainment, a lot when things were more shut down when COVID was going on more. It was a means of concerts online. People were doing live streams of music and different other avenues of how they were shifting from maybe traditional TV to using social media, Instagram Live, or other ways to be able to stay in touch. Health, I've used it to search and find different research on different things, maybe a medicine that I'm taking. I maybe want to delve in more and find out more information about it. Professional, I kind of shared, and then also education. We use it a lot to be able to share resources and information that provide different learning opportunities. So when I think about the power of social media, I think about a lot of things. I think about how social media has changed over the years and how we're probably using it even more now than ever before. I think of connection. So I found out about ataxia. I never knew anything about ataxia. And then I was connected with African Americans with ataxia. And through learning and all of the information that they provided, and also National Ataxia Foundation, I've learned more and been able to connect with different community members to be able to learn and familiarize myself as well, to be an ally to continue to spread about what ataxia is. So it really provides that connection, whether it's to learn new information or connecting and networking with other individuals within the community. That brings me to the next one, community. So these safe spaces are really an integral part about how we're able to maybe share information and create new communities based on maybe similar experiences or support, or just even providing inspiration within these communities as well. So when everything was shut down more with COVID, we really did lean a lot on different communities utilizing social media, especially with so many people feeling so much more isolated. Access to information is huge. There is a wealth of information, whether it's more information that will familiarize you with resources or connect you to different resources that you may not have already had access to. Access to research and different other opportunities. Social media really provides that outlet, as well as advocacy. We see so many different campaigns raising awareness about ataxia or about other areas that someone may be interested in raising awareness about. And you may be familiar with hashtags. So you may see that number sign and then a subject after. And hashtags are really great for just finding different areas to be able to raise awareness and finding different communities and information. So advocacy, I think, has provided a really nice way for social media to merge and bridge those different things, especially when you're not able to do it necessarily in person. All right, so we're moving on to assistive technology. So some of you all may be familiar with assistive technology. It really is being able to help individuals access, and whether it's maybe mobility you need to be able to access, and if you're not able to use a mouse, maybe an on-screen keyboard is beneficial for you to be able to use. But I talk about assistive technology because we need to be able to access social media in order to be able to utilize it. So assistive technology really provides that bridge to be able to utilize that. So the first one is on-screen keyboard. I provided some different ones that I'm familiar with, and there's so many others out there that you may be familiar with. So Microsoft has a free virtual keyboard. Click to speak on-screen keyboard is a Mac. And then the next one would be screen reader. So the screen reader is if maybe you need information that's presented on the screen read aloud, the screen reader provides that as assistive technology tool. So TalkBack is one, that's Android, VoiceOver, Apple, and then we have NVDA, which is non-visual desktop access for Windows. And all of these would help to read content on social media pages, images, help access any information that is presented on the screen. Text-to-speech, this reads aloud text that's on social media or any page that you may access. So if you highlight the text, it can read it back to you. And this is a wonderful way to be able to utilize, because when you're reading through maybe content that you may want to engage with on social media, or if you are reading through content that you may want to later post, it allows you to be able to help with highlighting the text, writing a caption maybe for the post, and then being able for it to read it back to you. Speechify is one that I'm familiar with. All of the tools or the assistive technology that I'm mentioning is currently free. I can't guarantee that may change tomorrow, but when I last checked, it was free. Speech to text is another one. So speech to text is when, as you talk, it will type what you're saying. So if you're familiar in Google Documents, you can use your speech to be able to say what you want, and then it will text it on or type it on the screen. Speech notes, speech texter, and Apple dictation. Now, I will say right now, when you utilize speech-to-text software, if you have difficulties with your speech, let's say if you have slurred speech or maybe anything related to difficulties with speech, The speech-to-text software is not as sophisticated right now. They are, I would say, working through to be able to have it more sophisticated. A lot of times what happens is when some individuals use speech-to-text and may not understand their speech patterns. And that presents some challenges as well when it's assistive technology that's supposed to be supporting you. You may end up running into more difficulties if it's not familiar with your speech pattern. I know Google has a research department, and they have a project that's currently going on called Project Euphonia. And the focus is to be able to help people if you have difficulties and you may have slurred speech. They're collecting different speech samples to be able to have the speech recognition software to understand more diverse speech patterns. So that's really exciting news because we rely so much now on different forms of assistive technology, and speech recognition is definitely one of them. Some of the other ones that people may use are voice-controlled software. So if you have difficulty accessing keyboard or a mouse, you may use Siri or Google Assistant. There's also Microsoft released something recently that you can use your voice to control the mouse. And then there's also a communication app called Voice It, and that can be integrated into your smart home technology or other smart assistants. All right, so when we talk about assistive technology, and I talked about some different things like screen readers, it provides a nice transition into accessibility. So not only are people using assistive technology maybe to access social media in order to write captions or interact and engage, but we look at from the other side, when you're posting social media, it needs to be accessible in order for all different people that are using different types of assistive technology to interact and engage. So these are just some. I pointed out some ways to make your social media accessible. So captions and transcripts, those are great if you think of YouTube and you have captions that may be at the bottom. Those are good if, let's say, someone may be deaf or hard of hearing, or even maybe you have your video on mute. It allows you to be able to, if you have the video on mute, it allows you to be able to still access the information that's being presented without being left out. So YouTube, Otter AI, Mixed Captions, they have Mixed Captions as an app. It's for Android or Apple. These are all great ones if you want to add captions to your content to make it more accessible. Alternative text is the next one, and image descriptions. So if you can think of, if there's an image presented on, let's say, Instagram or Facebook, if there is no alternative text or image description, someone that may be using, let's say, a screen reader, when it gets to that picture, it will say empty. There's nothing that is able to be connected to that picture. Now, if someone, let's say, is blind and is accessing that picture, there's not going to be any, it's just going to have an empty alternative text, and that person will not be able to access it. So it's really important to use these different accessibility tools as best practices when posting, so that the communities that you're interacting with or the communities you're trying to reach everyone's able to interact and engage. Same for hashtags. Camel case is for you capitalize the first letter of each word, because if not, the screen reader reads it as like a run-on. So that's really important as well. I'm just going to go back to alternative text really fast. The alternative text I didn't mention is like a summary. So if I were to summarize an apple on a table, I would just say, apple on a table. But if I said use an image description, then I may say a red apple that's sitting on a wooden table. So image description is a lot more detailed. Okay, moving on to color contrast. So sometimes, I don't know if you come across on any social media post where it's hard to read. So maybe there's a really pretty background, but then you have text that either maybe in a color that is blending into the background. So that would be an example of when something is maybe not the best color contrast. So that's really important when you're looking at social media, so that people can interact and they don't leave or not get the content because maybe the color schemes seem pretty, but it's difficult to read. So there's a tool that I included under there that's a contrast checker. So you can check if I put pink text on a blue background, is this a good color combination? Or is it better to maybe have, excuse me, white text on a black background? Maybe that's a better option for color contrast. So just really ensuring everyone's being able to access all the great content that you're posting. And the last one is inclusive language and content. And I included some resources underneath that have a lot of different communities represented. And I think this is one that we often overlook. Let's say you want to look at the content you're posting from pictures, or is it authentic? Is it representing the community that you are, the diversity in the communities that everyone is, serving, and you're trying to get your content out to. So these are some great tools to be able to reference regarding inclusive language and content. So we're going to go to the next slide. So when we think about different social media tips, we're thinking about safety and reliability sources of the information, which Tanoa is going to go into a little bit more details in a few more slides. When I think about social media, I think about authentic representation. So is your brand, your personal brand, or the messaging, is it authentic to your brand? It's very easy to go out on the World Wide Web and replicate maybe another brand, maybe their tone or their messaging or just their style. But a part of what I love about social media is the fact that you can align it to represent your tone, maybe resources that you may have that are unique, or your personal experience, or storytelling, or maybe you're a research company and you are aligning it to what makes your company unique, or how maybe you work with different communities to be able, so they have access to this information. So I think authentic representation really is a good one to keep in mind, because that's what allows people to build trust, also to differentiate, and also it helps when someone's spreading the word and talking about, National Ataxia Foundation or whoever. It allows people to have consistent messaging based off of your unique, authentic brand. Meaningful experiences. Social media, sometimes when we look at social media, it can seem very negative and it can draw people away from wanting to engage or get information or any of those different things. But it really can have some great meaningful experiences. For me personally, I've met so many great people, companies, access different resources as well, and I've had really great meaningful experiences. It is very different to think, I always laugh, my mom and I always joke, because she's like, wait, so you have a friend that's on social media that you've known via LinkedIn, but you all haven't met in person, you've only seen via video. So it is very much, when you think about it and break it down like that, it's kind of, it is very unique in that situation. But it definitely can be such a valuable tool, because I've finally met some of these individuals in person that I've been communicating via LinkedIn, and we've been sharing resources, and empowering each other's brands, and you feel like you've known them. So I think these experiences truly can be meaningful, impactful, and life-changing in some instances. Social media tools, these are some other tools. Canva is a tool that helps with, if you want to make your social media posts, the graphics. They have a lot of great templates that you can utilize, and also some other great features. And it is a free tool as of today. Linktree is another one. An example of this is Linktree pretty much brings all your links that you want to highlight into one place. And why is this really helpful? Well, sometimes, let's say in Instagram, when maybe you reference a social media post and say, here's the link, and you include the link in an Instagram post. Well, on Instagram, it's not, you can't click it like you can on LinkedIn or Facebook. So if you say link in my bio or something along those lines, you have a Linktree specialized just to your personal brand, and someone can click and have those links that are easy to access. So it just really makes it easy to access information, because it's very, it draws people away sometimes when they're trying to find it, and it's making it a little bit more difficult. It also helps with your brand and to keep track of everything that you have. So that's another great tool as well. So when I think about just social media in general, these are my pillars or areas that I like to focus on, and it allows me to be more intentional. And this is great, I think, whether you are an observer, whether you just want to find information or just kind of sit back and see what's going on, or if you are an engager and you're actively posting. I think for me, it's helped me to be more intentional and to really digest what I'm posting and what is my purpose, whether I'm searching content or whether I'm posting content. So when I think of message connection, I think about the end message. What is the goal? Like, what is my intent of posting what I'm posting? So that really helps me to be able to connect with my audience that I have, because my social media posts are not for everyone, right? I have a specific audience that I'm posting, and we've connected, and they come back and want to see more content. And that's the same too if I'm searching for content. I'm searching for something specific, and there's some type of message connection. So if you're posting, think about the end message. What are you trying to get across to your target audience? Message storytelling. Storytelling is something that goes, I think we underestimate how much the power of a story, and it doesn't have to be long. It can be something so simple, but that is a really connector point, and it allows people to move. I think it humanizes us. It's one thing me telling you something that I have never experienced, but it's another thing when I'm telling you a personal experience. It allows people to feel that they're connecting to you, right? They get to know maybe your story or your style, and it also allows those things that we may not see in, textbooks or things like that. These are real life examples. So I think storytelling is really something that helps messages move when you're telling something that's a story. And that can be, even with companies or organizations. How has this organization impacted the life of, it may be someone from your community telling a story and the impact it's made. How has research been life-changing, right? So it's one thing for a research company to tell about, what they utilize to research, but it's another thing when you're telling the story of maybe someone that is actually impacted. And I think that's what we see a lot more now on social media, where we're leaning more to those humanizing stories because it really provides that connector and trust, right? It's a trust thing too. There's so much information online and there's so much, but it's another thing when it's a personal story. So that one's really important. Message accessibility. We talked about different ways, some ways to make your social media accessible. And that's not only just for best practice, it's so that everyone can access the information that you're posting. If you have individuals that are accessing your content and it's communities that you're targeting your messaging to, and they're using some type of assistive technology, let's say like a screen reader, but they're not able to access the information, it creates a barrier. So it's important to have that accessibility of your messaging. And the last one is delivery. So whether it's delivery, maybe content in the form of image or video, audio, or maybe it's all of them, in addition to the tone. So looking at all of those different things before posting. Maybe there's something, let's say a graph. Maybe a graph may be too technical, right? So if you're trying to present some type of data, maybe adding some pictures or a personal story paired with the pictures, or something to, like I said, humanize and create something that is connecting. Not everyone's going to understand maybe a data point, but if you add a video and storytelling, maybe that can be able to create that connection as well. So those are the 4 areas that I utilize when posting different messages and content. How to make an impact. This pairs nicely with the last post because it really is, when we're looking at the positive ways that social media can really be impactful, whether you're an observer or an engager, we're looking at purpose. So when you are seeking out information or when you are posting information, what is your purpose? What's the purpose behind doing it, right? So are you looking for inspiration? Is it educational? Is it a story? Is it a resource? That helps when you're searching information so that you're more, you really have that in mind of what the purpose is for seeking this information. And then also when you're posting, it helps because that creates some nice structure. And also for when you are posting, because you can have, maybe on Mondays you're posting something more inspirational, motivational. On another day, you're posting something that may be more educational. And that allows your audience to know what it is that if I go to, this social media account, I know that I'm going to be able to get this type of information. And it's very helpful as well. A lot of times people think they have to post a lot in order to have those connections, and that's not true. It's more of meaningful content that you're posting when you do post, whether you have 1 follower or a million followers. Connect. Connect is the next thing that I always look at. And when we think about connect, sometimes we just think of maybe like a LinkedIn connection or maybe an Instagram follower. But when I think of connection, I think of so many different ways. So it can be in the sense of networking, or maybe you gained a new follower and you're making an impact because you're sharing information that is valuable to them. But I also think about the conversations we're having, right? So if someone is resharing your content, that's a way of connecting, right? They were impacted by it, they're resharing it. Or let's say you're an observer, you're taking the information and maybe you're going back to your organization and saying, hey, like, I really think we need to have this person as a speaker for the next webinar because the content that they provide is very valuable. The comments, I love the comments. It can go negative, positive, either way, but I think the comments are huge. I like the comments because it really creates a conversation around how people are perceiving information, how they're connecting, what they're thinking is regarding what you are sharing. And maybe there's room too within the comments to know, all right, this is the topic that people are interested in, and maybe we can do another post on this. And then the last one is collaborating. These are some sample posts, social media posts that I created a mock-up, and it really has all those components we discussed. The one on the left is talking about really a storytelling one. Today was hard. I decided to take time for myself to do something that I enjoy, cooking. I am thankful for the support I have on my journey. So this is really a great example of storytelling. I mentioned support group because maybe that's one of my connections within my network that elevate some of the posts that I post. And then we have image description, which is an accessibility feature for best practice. So I have heart with text. I am determined not to give up even on the hard days. So you can see I described the image below. And then I have hashtags, and I use camel case, which I explained earlier is when you capitalize the first letter of when you're doing the hashtag. So support group is one, cooking, thankful. Hashtags are also a great way. Let's say you have hashtag Ataxia for people to discover information, whether it's an observer of social media, they're trying to find information, or it is someone that is posting. So it's a great way to be able to, especially if you have your own personalized hashtag, people can follow you that way, they can discover your information, and it's also a way to kind of categorize it. Think of it as like if you're searching in Google, you search something, that is kind of how hashtags work as well. It creates those categories or that content. And then there's another post on the other side is just another example of content. So I am going to turn it over to you to know, to be able to describe some of those ways to stay safe on social media.
Thank you, Jourdan, for that excellent kind of overview of everything going on with accessibility and social media. A couple things I want to cover are how to stay safe on social media. So there are a lot of positives of being on social media. I've had a lot of positive experiences, but when you're on social media a lot, you'll notice that there are some spammers and some scammers. And I kind of want to just give you a toolkit to keep in your pocket for when you encounter those. So some common scams on social media, they include, claims of fake cures or claims of cures and treatments, but those aren't necessarily real. Romance scams, where someone is pretending to be someone that they're not, that you might be romantically interested in. Lottery scams, loan scams, free money and gifts, claims that they'll be able to make you a lot of money or give you something that's really expensive, but they're trying to get either information from you or they're trying to get you to send them money. Job scams, which can be fake job ads where you invest a lot of time and even your information, but you're not actually getting a job. Access token theft, where they're trying to take your information from your account, like your password or your email, and try to get access to your account so that they can pretend to be you. Or fake products, where and that kind of goes into the cures and treatments as well, but products that they claim that they have but are not actually something that they'll send you, and they're usually trying to get money from you on that. So some red flags that you should probably pay attention to are big claims with no evidence. So if someone's saying, I have this medicine that will cure every disease, it will cure, especially very, very relevant for this community is ataxia. If they claim that they can have ataxia, but they don't really provide evidence, that's something that you should look out for. Anonymous sources, if they're saying, I know this person who knows a person, or they're not really giving, background for how they know the information. That's another red flag. Generic images and names. Sometimes they'll have stock images of people that, they just bought the picture or they found it on Google and they put it up as their profile picture. You want to really kind of look for that. And a way that you can kind of tell if a profile is maybe not real is by looking at their profile, and if it's empty or if they don't have a lot of, friends, or if it was a newly created profile, that's another thing to pay attention to. If they're asking for money or private information from you, that's another thing that you should kind of have a warning signal in your head go off. Again, personal anecdotes. It's one thing to say, I tried this medicine and this is my experience. And then there's another to say, I tried this medicine and again, it cured me. Again, big claim, no evidence. Suspicious links. If you're not sure about a link, don't click it. It's just best practice to be cautious. Sometimes with suspicious links, they're going to be phishing schemes that will, if you click on it, they might be able to access information. So you really want to kind of evaluate who is sending me this link, why are they sending me this link, and think about it through that lens. Again, if something sounds too good to be true, sometimes it often is. You want to really critically think through that the claims that people are making on social media, and seeing if there's something for them to be gained if you potentially fall for a trap. And again, robotic or nonsensical language. Sometimes that's a pretty clear giveaway. Sometimes it's people who are, social media is a little bit more casual. So, it is expected that some people are going to be a little bit more casual and use, colloquialisms, but sometimes you can really tell if it's a robotic or nonsensical language that you want to look out for. These are a couple examples that we found on our page. We moderate our pages very closely. So here on one of them, you can see there's a lot of unusual accents over every letter. That's a pretty good indication that maybe something's going wrong. And they're also claiming that they have cures for ataxia, and they're trying to direct you to a special link in order to find that. Those are some red flags that you can kind of see in action. So what do you do if you see something that you're not sure about on social media? You can always report the comment or the post. Again, there's moderators with the actual social media platform. So for Facebook, for example, they do have moderation that they look at certain reported posts, especially if a lot of people are reporting them. But if it's on any of the NAF social media posts, I am personally looking and making sure that everything's above board and doing my best to kind of expedite that process. But reporting those comments and posts, that will definitely get my attention. Don't click links if you're not sure about them. Again, it's just best practice in order to prevent your information from being compromised. Don't send money if you're really not sure about, if you're trying to, maybe buy concert tickets or buy a product on a website that you're not sure about. If it's not Target.com or Walmart or, a store that definitely use a little bit of caution when you are thinking about purchasing or even sending some money if someone's asking for it. You can always block a person as well. That's a feature that's pretty ubiquitous to all social media sites. If someone's giving you a bad vibe, you can always block them. Really, there's no harm in being cautious. Even if it is a real person, there's not really, they're probably not even going to notice. And it's really just protecting yourself. You can also ask someone in real life. So if you have a friend with you, a family member, or someone else in your area and, you're not really sure, it's always good to get, two heads are better than one in these sorts of situations when you're seeing something that you're not quite sure. And usually it takes an extra pair of eyes in order to really figure out if it's a legitimate post or if it's something that's trying to scam. And then also always verify information through trustworthy sources. So whether that is, potentially the CDC or another government agency, if it is a well-known a well-known organization like the National Ataxia Foundation, that is, we're always going to vet the information that we're sharing with you. And kind of on that note, connect with us. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, we're also on Twitter. So for the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, we're at Ataxia Foundation. On Twitter, we're at NAF _ Ataxia. And so if you ever have a question about something that you see on social media, send us a message, a direct message. You can always leave a comment saying, hey, I saw this. Can you let me know if it's real? We have a huge team here at NAF that I can reach out to, especially for some of those research things that someone's claiming. We can reach out to our research team and say, hey, do you know of this? Is this source legitimate? And then we can get back to you. And again, even on our website, we have our email and our phone number as well. We're available, most of the day and for you to reach out to us, and we'll get back to you even the next day if it's while we're all sleeping. There's also other ways to connect with us on social media. So on Facebook, we actually do have a National Ataxia Foundation support group. That's a great way to meet a lot of people with different forms of ataxia that might be in the same situation as you. There's even family members of people with ataxia. There's friends of people with ataxia. We even have some researchers in there because they want to kind of see what's going on with the ataxia community. And it's a good way to gauge, symptoms. It's a good way to gauge maybe some mobility aids that other people are trying. Excuse me. It's a really great way to connect with people. And we also just recently joined Reddit as our Ataxia. So we're moderating on there. Reddit is a little bit more of an anonymous kind of browsing experience, where maybe if you're not necessarily if you want to be a little bit more candid about maybe an experience that might be uncomfortable to link to your direct name, a lot of people do use Reddit as a way to kind of talk about those issues that maybe are a little bit more personal, that they don't want to really have associated with them. And if you connect with us, share images with us. We want to hear your story. We want to be able to spread your story. I love talking to people on social media, connecting with the ataxia community and finding the unique stories that every person has to tell. We love to share genuine content that you're taking in your everyday life, and we love to share what we're also doing, and to be able to make that connection between the both of us and all of us, really, it's something really special that that I think is great. And you can also find out a lot about what's going on in terms of ataxia research, what webinars we have going on, and all sorts of ways to really get involved and to fundraise, to really make a difference in this community. Just because with all of us together, we can really make a difference. And that's really the true strength of what social media is, I feel like. All right, any questions? All right, everyone. Thank you for watching that session. Thank you, Jourdan, so much for all that great information that you presented. We're going to open up for some questions and answers. I see a couple in the Q&A. Feel free, if you have any more questions as we're talking, to put it in there. We'll go ahead and get started. And I only want one question, no more than one, about my hair, since I did get a haircut since we recorded that presentation.
So you get one question if you guys want to ask about that, but that's it. All right. Hey, Peter. Peter's from South Africa. I've connected with him a little bit on social media, actually. He wants to know about ChatGPT. I definitely have some things I can talk about, but Jourdan, do you want to touch on that at all?
Sure. From a general standpoint, just because it's I've used ChatGPT a lot, and really it's a really great resource if you're looking for general things. So maybe if for recipes, let's say like, oh, I want to make a chicken dish, can you provide a recipe for chicken, but I have difficulties using my hands for a long time or something like that. And then it can come up with maybe like a easy cooker recipe or crock pot. Maybe it will come up with something like that. I think the biggest thing with ChatGPT is the prompt. So like if you, let's say, said list some organizations for, Ataxia or something like that, then it would come up with a whole list. Like, so it's really key is like how you're wording your questions or the prompt, because it's all based off of prompt. So you really can use it in pretty much any area. Like, for now, I will say the only thing right now, ChatGPT 3 is all of the information in their data is up until September 2021. So anything past September 2021 wouldn't be included in like when you ask different questions. But yeah, I think it's a great resource that you can use in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and kind of on that, I'd say ChatGPT and these other AI programs, they're really in the testing development phase. So for a lot of people, I don't think they're going to be super relevant quite yet. I know that for ChatGPT in general, for social media specifically, it's more for it's going to be more useful for people who are doing a lot of social media posting for like businesses, perhaps. Maybe like large organizations where they're posting multiple times a day because they have those many updates. And I think as the technology evolves, there might become more ways to increase accessibility, for example, through AI and aggregating those kind of search answers. I know that Bing has a sort of search function that uses AI to help kind of aggregate results. I will say with ChatGPT, there's still some biases that are worked into the AI that can kind of be a little bit problematic, but it's definitely kind of more centered. It's especially, I think it's a paid service right now. So it's kind of still in that testing phase, and it's definitely something to look out for, but I keep my eye on it all the time. So yeah, I hope that answered that question. Looks like Bushan says, will we send the recording of the sessions? These sessions will be recorded on the actual platform. Yeah, so you can watch them. They'll be available for rewatch within the next few days, a week at most, I believe. And then you'll be able to watch it for an exclusive period of time. I did see a question in the chat, but Peter wants to know about clinical trials. If you're interested in any clinical trials through NAF, you can go to our website. I also do post about it regularly on our social media. So go to our website, ataxia.org, ways to get involved or research. There should be information about that. This one's for you more so, for Jourdan. Terrence wants to know what other text-to-speech software like WellSaid for presentations do you know about?
Yeah, so I know there's Speechify, Read Aloud. I can include them in the chat too. Natural Reader. I'll put them in the chat. Let's see if I can. Yeah, there's a few different ones. You just kind of have to see what works best. And then some are free, some are paid. Like I said, sometimes they may start out free and then they switch to paid. So yeah, these are some that I know of. I just included them in the chat.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Looks like, yeah, Speechify, TTS Reader, Read Aloud, and Natural Reader are some good options to kind of explore. Yeah. And you know, I find that when I try out new apps and everything, I try a couple and see what really is best for me, because I think, you know, interface is an important part of apps and websites, where maybe it connects for you if you're more visual, or maybe you're more auditory, or, you know, depending on kind of your personality. Something might work better for you, but it might work better for someone, and that doesn't necessarily mean one's better than the other. Tony wants to know, is there good free AI? I don't know of any that are currently free. There usually will be some beta tests on different AIs and programs and software in general. I would just, you know, keep an eye out on the news. You can always do like Google alerts for that sort of thing. Yeah, I do know of any free ones, Jourdan.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I know is the right now is just the Chat GPT-3, that one, and the when you mentioned Bing.
Yeah, I do know there's some AI functionality on TikTok, for example, tends to be more AI generated images. I know Canva, which you mentioned previously, they just introduced some new AI kind of image generating. I've tried it out. I use Canva a lot for some of our social media posts. It's not the best right now, but it's fun to play around with, especially on TikTok. It's fun to play around with. You can enter interesting prompts and see what comes up. For me right now, the AI is only at the tech play stage that I feel like a lot of things, like if you remember Google Glasses, you know, probably like 10 years ago now, they had that kind of test play phase, and then you know, now it's kind of the technology is getting there where it's going to be a little bit more accessible.
Oh yeah, and I forgot about, there's one called Copy AI, like Copy, COPY period AI, but that one's still, like you said, it's still kind of in the early phases, but that's like AI powered like copywriting. You put a
yeah, and I think that really is more useful for like big businesses where they're generating lots of that content. For me, I when it first was in the beta testing, I did kind of experiment with seeing what would come up if I entered it into ChatGPT. And I think the strength of social media is really the people behind it. And I think, you know, as companies are starting to rely on more AI generated social media content, I think that being authentic to who you are and your own personal voice is a lot more important, and will ultimately help you make those connections in the long run. And that's my you know, kind of where I'm at with that. I love talking to, I mean, me and Jourdan have been communicating on social media ever since we kind of met through this. And, you know, I'm really interested in finding ways that we can collaborate on social media. And we're at the annual Ataxia conference right now, and there's so many people that I've met through social media who interacted with our posts on NAF that I've met in person for the first time. And it's like so cool to be able to make those connections and to, you know, make friends through social media. I've been making friends through Instagram and Facebook for over 10 years, you know, and you know, it's, things are changing, and but there's that kind of cool thing about social media that is really what drives me back to it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree though. It's not there, like the AI is not there yet where it's like you need to rely on it like solely, like it should be more, you know, testing it out and seeing, but not like replacing it.
Yeah. Peter I would love to connect with you on Instagram. I know you're active on there. I'll send you a message today about Peter wants to tell a little bit of his story about trying to start a support group for Ataxia in South Africa. So I think that's super cool and unique way to share your story. I think everyone has a story to share. Everyone has a voice. And yeah, I think, the more people who are sharing their story, the more we get the word out about what ataxia is, and also whatever other important issues there are that, we're trying to be a part of and be part of good social change. I think, let's see. Terrence, we have all of the links for the screen readers and the text to speech in the chat. So if you want to find those links, you can copy those right now. But yeah, let's see. Some people did compliment my haircut. So if you guys have any other questions, please put them in. We have a couple more minutes. But I'm donating my hair. I cut that Tuesday before I flew out to give you guys the full story on that. So I'm excited for that. I've been growing it for 3 years since the pandemic started in 2020. And I was tired of getting hair in my mouth, to be honest, whenever I'm eating or the wind blows. But yeah, anyone else have any other questions? Please put it in the Q&A. Looks like some people are connecting in the chat. That's awesome. Oh, that's cool to hear. Peter's son is growing his hair for cancer research. That's really cool. Yeah, and then I will mention, so last year I started our Instagram page on NAF, and we are almost at 1,000 followers. If you guys are on Instagram and you're not following us yet, help us hit that 1,000. I think that would be so cool if we hit that, right before the last day of the conference. I know they did an announcement at the general session this morning and the welcome session, and I got maybe 10 followers from that. So hopefully, for the NAF, remember Ataxia Foundation on most social media websites. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Meg just put that in the chat. It would be super cool if we hit that 1,000. And then Jourdan, where can we find you on social media?
So I will include in the chat at the resource key.
All right. So you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram.
Yes, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter.
Okay, those are yeah, all and resource key on Twitter as well. The resource key.
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. Oh, looks like we got 1 follower from this chat already.
Oh,
so.
that's awesome.
Watching them roll in. Yeah, I would love to hear from you guys about the session. If you want to reach out to us, in the DM, in the direct messages, tell us how you enjoyed the session. Maybe this could be something that we do, some more social media tips and posts in the future. Thank you again, Jourdan, so much for all that you spoke with us today about. I think it was super enlightening for me. Even I'm always learning ways to be more accessible on social media. So I think it was super informative session.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah. Well, looks like I think we've answered all the questions. We have another session that I'm going to be the host of. If you want to join on that, we will. I'll see you there. And again, Jourdan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you online.